I got one case, a very unique one, falsifying a qualification. And the one that falsified is basically the head of HR.
Woo. Okay.
And it was found by one of the directors. Suddenly the HR head not able to dissect HR things. Then immediately by looking at the CV and all the data, I know this is a fraud. But how do we prove?
Ladies and gentlemen, ever find it difficult to maintain a harmonious and a productive work environment when issues arise? Is domestic inquiry a need in today's ever-changing society? Hi, my name is Harif, and welcome back to HR Professional Unveiled, where we bring the human in human resources. Now, my guest for today is a veteran in many core human resources functions with over 25 years of experience. He has held multiple prestigious roles in various transformative projects in both public and private sectors. He is now a Malaysia HR Forum trainer, focusing on performance management system, performance improvement plan, domestic inquiry, and HR for non-HR. Mr. Sulaiman, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you. I hope the trip here was okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just fine. Friday afternoon.
Friday afternoon. Tak jam lah kan? So far okay lah kan? So this is what I do with all of our first time guests. And I always ask them this very simple question. Why did you choose HR as your career? So what attracts you to HR?
Okay, first and foremost, I love to work with people. My first background, I was in hospitality, running in hotels. So then come the opportunity to learn about HR. Back in 90s, there's not many HR programs offered by uni.
Yeah, I'm assuming
so. We were the third batch in UiTM at that time. So it is a blessing that we learn from the expert at that time. But I think working with people is something that I'm very passionate about.
Right. And I'm assuming, and I said this, we had a session with Kat also. We said that in any department pun, HR is the one that deals with the most people. Compared to sales, event, it's always HR that has to deal with people.
Yep.
Okay, so for today, we're going to talk a lot, or at least dive a bit deeper into the topic of domestic inquiry. And as we know, this is quite a heavy topic lah, so to say, in terms of in any organization pun. So with that in mind, domestic inquiry is probably one of the biggest topics and is very significant in any company. But how come certain companies don't even know about domestic inquiry or what it means?
Okay, this goes back to the basic of fair and just in ensuring anything that we do is in line with the natural justice concept.
Right.
Even though in court, there's no hard and fast rule how should we do domestic inquiry, but it is a process to ensure that we give fair opportunity for both parties, for companies to present their case and also for the staff to defend themselves if there's any accusation. So it is also utmost important that we keep independent, especially in terms of domestic inquiry, the part of the panel, the process, and even the post, the punishment. So it must be fair.
It must be fair.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad you mentioned the word fair, because it does lead to the next question. And we do see different situations where certain companies or a certain organization favors more. Example, if it's the case between a boss and an employee, it always favors the boss, or it always favors the male side of the audience. The female always get the short end of the stick. So there's a question I have. How does an organization stay unbiased? What to help both parties, so the accused and the accuser, so to speak?
It always started with investigation. So the investigation, we must done it with fair and fact finding. It is not about fault finding. It's just about fact finding. Does the thing happen? If the thing happen, on what ground? How far does it go? And this is where I think as a HR practitioner, we must have the passion to make sure that our investigation is free from any bias. We must move without prejudice. And we must put in mind that we are giving justice to people.
Right.
And what you mentioned is either could be male dominant or could be boss dominant or power dominant. Yes, in some organization we cannot run away, but the truth will prevail if the case goes to court.
Right. And there are times where it does bring to court. I did
Yes.
see one of the cases recently in Malaysia as well, where it was brought to court lah. So wanted to add on to what you said. When you said that we have to maintain fairness and also gather data fairness. So has there ever been a situation, like in your personal experience, if you've done DI before, where the evidence was tampered ke, or there are times where the person don't want to come forward and tell the whole truth, because there is the amount that there's a fear aspect when it comes to like getting in trouble, like, okay, if I tell this, what will happen to me? What if I tell this, what's going to happen also to this person? So something like that.
In our context, two parts of retaliation. One is against those who inform. The other one is also could be on the person that we accuse. If even the person have not been found guilty, in some instances, some organization they already put a label. This guy is guilty as charged.
Yeah.
Even though we have not
Without
started.
evidence or anything, yes.
So this is where I think the investigation, could it be a person or a team, they must clearly be on their objective, do not run away, because their role is to do fact finding. And to do fact finding is basically some people may hide certain information.
Yes, exactly.
But as a good investigator, you will always know how to dig the discussion and how to lead the discussion, so that you are not trapped into missing information, hidden agenda, or even worse, punishment before even the thing starts.
Right, understood. Has there been any cases where the HR or the company hire or at least bring in a third-party investigator instead?
Yep.
Is that allowed in terms of DI?
In some instances, I got one case which is very complex. It involved IT fraud.
Okay.
In our organization, we don't have such an expert. So what we need to do is we need to find out there, scout, because you see, fraud, if it happen physically, is much easier. But what if it is online? Digitally. People can delete, people say, okay, this has never happened. That is where we appoint a third party to do our IT investigation. We call it as forensic. And we manage to recover the deleted files. So that's why some people say, oh, I already deleted it, but they forget that in the web, in the www, it's always there. So this is where a third party you need, especially on expert opinion. Okay, why expert opinion is important? Because nobody can challenge an expert opinion up and unless somebody else who are considered the authority can override you.
Right.
Example, drug case.
Yeah.
You need to appoint a doctor to check.
Yes, definitely.
IT, like I mentioned, IT fraud.
Experts, yeah.
Then also banks transaction, because you are not able to reach the bank because the bank have the wall which you can't penetrate. So you need to bring them in if such a case happen.
Right, understood. So it's a case to case, or at least organization or industry based, depending on what they need lah. Okay, so I have a question more related to basically the audience, and this is something I really wanted to crack my brain. Like, okay, every time we have a DI training or a DI inquiry or in the guidebook, it's always information about what the organization can do during the DI process. So I want to ask, on the other side of this DI process, what are the rights for the employees during a DI process? So what can they do? What can they not do? What do you look into?
First thing, if any employee is accused, he must be told clearly what is the charges all about.
All right.
If there's any document relating to the case, then the document must be tendered to the staff before the charge sheet is read during the session. And the fair and just must happen. Example, if the accused would like to bring witness, the company must allow. If, say for example, the accused wanted to be represented by a members of any employee, if they are union members, the union can represent them. And me personally, during I'm issuing the domestic inquiry notice, I will inform, okay, Mr. So and so, these are the company charge against you, and these are your rights. You either want to come for the DI, that's also your call.
Okay.
You can also allow the DI to run ex parte, means single party, but
Okay.
this is an opportunity for you to defend
To
yourself.
defend yourself, bring up
Then,
any evidence.
at any point of time, if you think that the company are not doing whatever things that you come to me because I'm your HR guy. Yes, I'm part of the team, but to be fair, you must know your rights. And we also mentioned if in case the person are on suspension, what are their rights during suspension? Most organizations, they tell clearly, during suspension you can do this and this and this, but not this and this and this.
Okay.
Your login are temporarily withhold because we are now looking at all the business transaction, we take care. And at the same time, during suspension, you are still a staff. So if you want to go anywhere outside of 2 hours, you must inform us.
Yep.
So this is where I think we in HR, we are managing very tight equilibrium to maintain whether we are not pro company, we are not pro employee, but we are putting fair and just into practice.
Just the balance between the two. You have to be, no matter what point. And this is another question. This probably the last question before we unfortunately have to end the session. I just wanted to know were there any instances where there's a case that the accused is the HR's boss? And I'm pretty sure I did. Like in today's we cannot avoid that, and this is a bit sensitive in terms of the what we've been seeing or what we've been hearing in our industry, or at least in many industries, when the boss is accused of misconduct, but the employee is like the young employees. So has that ever happened? And in your experience, what was the approach like? Like if you can give as little details as you need.
I got one case, a very unique one, falsifying a qualification.
Okay.
And the one that falsified is basically the head of HR.
Whew. Okay. Interesting.
And it was found by one of the directors. Suddenly the HR head sort of not able to dissect HR things. And I was called in. I was from the parent. This is happening in the subsidiary.
Parent company.
Was called. Then immediately by looking at the CV and all the data, I know this is a fraud. But how do we prove? Because the cert was years ago.
Right.
And this is where I think the staff themselves report to the director. So the staff took the challenge, do whistleblower, take that challenge and say, I think there's something wrong with my boss.
Right.
And I really applaud the staff. I really appreciate the staff because from there, we are able to clear and make sure that things doesn't go what we call out of proportion. But we take time. We take our time to do proper investigation because this uni was overseas. Not local.
It's an overseas company.
But surprisingly, by God blessing, Alhamdulillah, it took us roughly less than 3 days to complete
the whole process.
Even the registrar from the university overseas completely responded, no such person, and the worst part is there's no such causes.
Right, so you heard it first. And also just like to emphasize, and I like what you said about the being brave enough to be a whistleblower, and no matter where you are in the company or what your position is, you always point out that if there's something wrong, you gotta say the truth. Like, hey, this is wrong. We need to do something about it, and have justice when it comes to these actions. So we have come to an end of our podcast this episode. It's quite a short one, so we just need to maintain the timing that we have. So before we end, to the crowd, to the camera that you have, or this camera as well, would you like to, or do you have any shout out that you'd like to give to our audience today?
Okay, one simple advice, especially for those either coming on board as a HR practitioner or love to switch into HR, you must know your basic. That's why I encourage, especially organization, to go for HR, for non-HR. This is for everybody. Be it you have subordinates or you don't have, that's one. The other thing that I think there's a lot of misconception is all about performance management.
Right.
So that's one thing that we need to brush up. And of course, consequences of not performing the PIP, the performance improvement plan. And these things go hand in hand. But misconduct, like just now 𝙁𝙊𝘾𝙄𝑼, regardless, we got to learn the tricks. And we got to learn to manage it with very professional attitude.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sulaiman. You heard it here first. This has been Harith and Mr. Sulaiman from HR Professional Unveiled, where we bring the human in human resources. Stay tuned for the next episode, and until then, goodbye. Hey there, thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe for more everyday HR things. And please stay tuned for our next video, where we'll bring more guests across the country. This has been Harith to you from HR Professionals Unveiled, where we bring the human in human resources. See you.